Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at USAGlobalTV.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hi, red.olaughlin here on the Wise Ones on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. I'm honored today to have another author on board today. Do something creative every day is her slogan. She's an award-winning, over a dozen awards she's won as an author. She's a ghostwriter. When you talk about short stories, she has well over 250 of those. And she's currently involved in an AI challenge, a personal vendetta against AI. Well, I wouldn't say, but I'll let her tell you about it. Anyway, Alison Mcbain, please join us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Alison, you have written in many genres, literary, romance, horror, sci-fi, fantasy, adventure. I mean, it goes on and on, it seems like. How did you get involved in all these different things? Because you have over 200 books in those, or 200 articles or short stories or whatever they may happen to be. That's a lot of different things and a lot of different things.
Yeah, well, I've always loved to learn. So basically, I don't really limit myself to one genre when it comes to reading. I don't limit myself to one genre when it comes to writing. The world is so fascinating that there's a good story to tell no matter what the background is. So it could be nonfiction, it could be science fiction, it could be literary. There's so many fabulous stories out there, and I want to read them all and I want to write them all.
You have over a dozen award-winning books that you have done. How difficult is it for an author to actually become an award-winning author, much less a dozen plus books? But the people I know, they submit their books, and anyway, just tell us your story about how you got involved with being an award-winning author.
Well, I think like anything in the publishing industry, it's all about perseverance. So when it comes to winning awards, it's the same thing. you have to find both a publisher who believes in you, and you have to believe in your own work and send it out there and have your publisher send it out there. So you get, just like regular writing, you get a lot of rejection when it comes to awards too. So for every award that I've won, there's several that I've lost also. So for every publication I have, and might sound impressive to have over 200 publications, but I have over 1,000 rejections to my name too. So it's basically just believing in yourself. And as a new writer, it might feel terrible when you first get your first rejection and be like, oh, no one will love my stuff. But you have to believe in yourself, and you have to believe that there's someone out there, maybe several someones, who will love your work as much as you do.
Now, several of the people we've had on here, authors and others, are from Canada. You're from the Alberta area, but you went to school down in California, and then you ended up back north again. There's some fascination about Canada for you.
Yeah, so I was actually born here in the Edmonton area, but my mom's American, and so they shortly thereafter moved to California. So I grew up in the States, and only visited Canada. I have lots of family up here. But after the pandemic, I think a lot of things were up in the air for a lot of people, and I talked a lot about someday moving back up here, and I was like, you know what? This is a good time to do it. This is a good break. Everything sort of changed, I think, during that time for a lot of people. So that's when I packed up my kids, packed up my car, and drove across the country to come to Alberta. And it was a lot of fun. It was a great trip.
Well, I noticed the walls behind you look fairly clean, unless you write in yellow. But you have this thing on your website, I think someplace else when I was doing some research on you, that you write on your walls, I'm guessing with your kids.
Yeah, all of my kids are artistic, and I love doing a lot of different projects with them. They love all different kinds of art, just like I like all different kinds of writing. And in fact, my middle daughter is a published author herself. She had a poem at the age of 9 published in a kids magazine, and I can't tell you, I was never prouder, of her. It was fabulous that she wanted to sort of follow in my footsteps. But yes. All of my kids, this is my office, so it's sort of a sacred space for me. So there aren't a lot of drawings on the wall here, but definitely where my kids are welcome to draw all over the walls of their room. And it started out because when we lived back in Connecticut, it was sort of an old fixer-upper place. And so I was like, you know what? We're going to paint over, we're going to redo this house. Um, have at it. And so they did. They had a lot of fun, and it sort of carried on that tradition since then.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't you publish a book when you were very young?
Well, not technically. When I was 4, that was when I first started writing. And my first story was, I self-published it with a stapler, stapled together the little pages and drew all the pictures. And it was a horror story, actually, about the monster in the closet. And, all my friends and family really loved it and said, keep at it. And they did.
Well, let's kind of move down what you do. You're an author and you write a lot. I want to save a little bit of time before we get into your AI challenge. But you're also a ghostwriter, which is a little different because now it's not just your creative work, it's your creative juices being applied to someone else. Tell us a little bit how you got involved in. First off, let's define what ghostwriting is, and then how you got involved in it and how you could possibly help some people.
Yeah, well, ghostwriting is basically writing someone else's idea or concept, or helping them out if they have not a fully fleshed out book, and helping them take it to the next level so that it's publishable. So I've done both. I've taken something from scratch, been given an outline, and said, can you please write this in this person's voice? Sure, I can do that. And I've also been given books that are maybe 20,000 words, and that doesn't make a book. Most books are 60,000 words and above, and taken that, fleshed out, filled it out so that it was publishable. So that's what ghostwriting is. And I got involved actually through my editing work. I'm editor also. And I had some clients who, once I handed them back their edits, they're like, "Oh, these are great changes. I love these changes. Can you do it for me?" And I was like, "Sure, sure, I'll give it a try. Why not?" At this time, I had already been a published author, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed diving into their world and helping them bring their work to the next level.
Interesting. Now, one of the tips that you suggest, well, let me back off before I get into that tip. 1 million words was one of the things that kind of hit me. So you're saying, okay, read 1 million words in a genre so you understand the conventions, the way that particular genre flows. So you're saying that's probably less than 20 books in most cases. And so when I'm reading a book, let's say that I don't write in sci-fi, but if I wanted to write in sci-fi for whatever reason, then I should make a diligent effort to understand that genre very well. So are you reading that many books in a particular genre before you start writing in adventure or fantasy or literary or whatever? Or what is your process of being able to master a new genre?
Well, I have read dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of books in most genres, I would say. I'm a voracious reader. Granted, when I'm writing a book a week, I'm not reading much myself, aside from research that I need to do to bring that book to life. But yeah, I can definitely read a lot, and I love all genres. So, and if there's a genre that I haven't read, I don't think there is, but if there is, I'm always happy to pick it up and give it a try. So yeah, so all the genres that I'm writing for my book a week project, they're all ones that I've read dozens of times over.
And one of the tips that I remember seeing on one of your videos was write 1 million words and then start. In other words, you want to master a particular genre. Just don't start out with your first book never having written in that and think that's going to be successful. But you get into the mindset, into the drudgery and the ecstasy of being able to understand how to connect these things together, transition, and move on. And you don't do that with just writing 5,000 words. You have to have something under your belt. So I'm sure you've probably written millions of words, and some of them turned into usable things. And like your 1,000 rejection letters, some of these things just ended up in the trash can or the trash file in your computer. So realistically, writing 1 million words before you actually write a book is I mean, it's a great tip. I love it a lot. But is that realistic for a lot of people?
I would say it is. Actually, more people than ever are writing words. They might not be fiction, they might not be what they think they're writing, but we are more than ever a very literate society. So, like, think of how many emails you write a day. I mean, people are or blog posts or in journal entries. So many people are writing and thinking, yeah, this isn't publishable, and it probably isn't. But it's a learning experience. So it's definitely something that people, by the time they're my age, have done. They've written over 1 million words in their lifetime. So when it comes to genre, though, definitely, I think that my early work, I cringe. I look back at it and think, yeah, this was not publishable, when I was in my teens and 20s. Um, but some of those ideas actually were good. And I've actually taken some of those ideas and completely thrown away the first draft from, 10, 20, 30 years ago and reused the idea and just wrote it with my own voice now and gotten it published. So I think if you're a writer, you can be a writer in your heart, even if you don't have the words yet. And writing those 1 million words is just figuring out your voice.
Okay, I'm understanding a little bit more about the 1 million words is not necessarily 1 million words in sci-fi. It's
No.
it's getting into the habit of being a writer, not writing, Tuesday this week and then take 2 weeks off. It has to be something that you're connecting your brain to something, whether, as you say, a blog post or an email or whatever. So that makes a lot more sense to me. I mean, to me, a perfect book is about 300,000 words. I love those long historical kinds of things where you really get involved in generational development. That to me, I can sit there and things about that thick. I enjoy that. I love having that thing in my hand. I'm not a person who can. Yes, I can read off my phone. I can read off the screen, but I guess it's the blue light in my eyes over time. I just get tired, but I don't get any blue light coming from my book. And to me, that's pretty satisfying. But if I'm writing and I want to, let's say that I'm a romance writer, but I want to delve into sci-fi and maybe I want to make it a sci-fi romance. It's not a far twist to go from romance into sci-fi because you already have a background established. But if I've never written romance, but I've read 100 books on romance, that's probably going to give me an advantage when I'm reading a book and I look at, okay, I go back and I reread, what was that person wearing? How did that person react to it? Notice I'm looking from my own writing perspective. Why did they choose that kind of opening? Because I'm looking at their written word, trying to figure out what can I learn from this that'll make my next writing a little bit better. And that to me, I think is as you said, read, because that is a major part of, I think, of becoming a better writer. But that's not one of those things we really tell people. We just sound right. But I think the reading is such an important part that it has to be, you have to, as you talk about it in one of your tips, pick up and understand what the conventions are in that genre and then begin. Otherwise, people are going to pick up your book. I thought this was a romance. Maybe it's a different kind of. Anyway, they lose track because they expect a certain thing. Their expectations are shot down. They're unhappy. And anyway, but you do offer on your videos tips and tricks. And you talked about one that I particularly liked on going from your first draft. And at some point in time, one of the phrases I like to use is, okay, I have a book that's going to be published tomorrow. At some point in time, I have to stop, declare victory, and move on. There's a lot more I can add, but I have to say, this is it. I mean, no mas. And so you're saying, yes, get your first drafts done. And so why don't you give us that tip rather than me trying to interpret your words for you?
Well, basically, the tip is to be bad. Just get words on the page because honestly, no first draft is perfect. And anyone who tells you that their first draft is perfect is probably lying to you. This is probably draft 10, maybe. But there's always things to improve. So feeling like, oh no, it has to be perfect the first time I get it down, that drive for perfectionism is something that will hold you back. So one reason that I can get all of these words out is I know that this is not going to be a published draft. I can write 40,000 and above words in a week because I know I'm going to go back and edit those words. And no one's going to see them unless I want them to see them. But I can get the basic structure of the story out. I can do the character building. I can do all the fun elements of a book and then go back and fix, this place where the pacing was too fast or too slow, or, this character said something completely ridiculous and it's not going to make it into the final draft. So my advice, especially to new writers who are held up on the idea that they have to get everything right the first time, you definitely don't. Editors are there for a reason. Editors are your best friend and they will help you take it to the vision that you have in your head that might not have quite made it onto the page. They'll be able to fill in the gaps for you and help you out.
Okay. Reader expectations. How do you know what your reader expects?
Well, part of that is tied to your previous comment about genre. So, like knowing the conventions of a genre are super important because an opening for a book for a romance might not go over so well for an opening if you're trying to write in the science fiction genre or vice versa. So each genre has its own things that are accepted as part of that genre and things that if a reader in that genre sees will make them put down the book. So my best advice is to really know your genre, to really be aware of the conventions of it, read it, read the genre, and then you know where to start.
One of the lines I picked up on your website, I believe it was do something creative every day. Tell us about that little saying of yours.
Well, I think part of it comes with being a mom because before I started this project, I do write every day now, but I didn't before. So I'm not always writing, but getting that creativity out in another way can spark an idea. So, like, for example, maybe I'll be baking cookies and be like, okay, this totally gives me an idea for my main character who I'm now going to make a chef. Um, in this book, and it wasn't working before when I had him as a lawyer, but as a chef, perfect. It fits the book perfectly. So sometimes doing other creative things can spark the writing idea, or they can just be fun. Like, I love creating art. I actually do a web comic, and it's a silly little web comic. I don't claim any great artistic talent, but it's called Toddler Times, and it's about pretty much you'll see me in it. You'll see my three kids in it. But I think that just like in life in general, parenting, you can either laugh or you can cry, and I prefer to laugh. So I'll put down the silly things, the terrible things that have happened as a parent, and I'll put it down on the page, and then I can let it go. And hopefully I'm a little bit funny too.
Is there any kind of software that you love to use to do your writing?
I'm sort of a Luddite. I just use Microsoft Word. I don't do any of the fancy programs. I know some people swear by Scrivener for helping them organize things, but I'm a very visual and sort of tactile person, so I might even print my work out and take a look at it that way. Or read it out loud. Reading aloud is a great tip because sometimes when your eyes are on the page and you're just reading it in your head, you might not catch a mistake. But if you read it out loud, you're definitely going to catch those mistakes.
Yeah, I use Microsoft Word to read it back to me so I can
Mhm.
hear it and follow and usually there's a disconnect between what I'm reading and what I'm hearing. And that's pretty quick. But I love the reading. I used to do that all the time, but now I just listen and it seems to take that out. Um, Getting your covers for your books. Tell us about that process because that's usually a big one for authors, especially new authors. Where do you go? What do you want? I know from my own experience, what I think is a great cover is not necessarily what my readers think is a great cover.
Well, I like to, for previous of my books, I have designed the covers. I do like having that control when I can. But for my author versus AI project, I'm planning again, it's anti-AI, so it's going to be no AI anywhere in any of the books or the covers. So I am hiring local artists. I plan on running a Kickstarter actually to fund the artists because I want to pay them a fair amount. Yeah, so it's going to be local artists who will be designing the covers for each of my 52 books. And I'm really excited to work with some of them.
You talked about editing a brief moment ago. Are you a developmental editor, a line editor, copy editor, whatever they? Because there's so many different kinds of editing. But from what you're telling me earlier, you're really talking about the developmental editor. But that's also one of your jobs, so to speak. Tell us about your what do you do in editing if you were editing somebody's book? How do you help somebody do that?
Well, I actually am available for all of those.
Okay.
I'm sure that's not a surprise, right? If I'm doing everything else.
One
But
size fits all.
Yeah, but yeah, so when I'm initially talking to a client, I'll ask them what they want. So some clients might just want copy editing. They're like, "Well, we don't really want to change the structure of the book." Other edits or other clients might want proofreading, just throwing in those final commas. But then yeah, developmental editing where you look at the whole structure of the book, you look at the character development. I do that also. So making sure that things make sense from point A to point Z, basically, in the book. And I don't edit all genres. I do edit many of them. But some of the ones that I most frequently edit are romance, mystery, fantasy, and literary.
So in other words, the ones that you feel most comfortable in, you've written a lot in, you can
Yep.
provide value because of your experience. The ones that are not necessarily, you want to provide a value to your client. And so that's why you don't do all of them. You just do the ones you feel masterful in, so to speak.
Definitely. I probably wouldn't tackle memoir. I have edited memoir, but it's not something that I feel like I can offer more than someone who specializes in memoir itself. So generally, I tend to stay away from the nonfiction genres more.
Since you have this close relationship with AI, have you ever tried using AI to edit a book from a line or copy editing?
I haven't. I have seen work that has been edited by AI, and mistakes do come through, like mistakes that I catch. And I understand people who do use it. My my project is sort of tying into what's on everyone's mind right now, the hot topic du jour, the author versus AI. But I understand why people use it. It does cut corners. It does provide a cheap or free alternative to paying hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to specialists. So for someone on a budget, someone who's self-publishing, someone who doesn't necessarily want to write 20 books, but maybe this is the one book that they're going to put out, I can see why it would be of value. There are definitely drawbacks, though, especially with the new technology, about how it's being used and who's using it. So this is where the contentious part of the conversation comes in. So who's making the profit? Who is being left behind? Who is being taken advantage of? The small guys are pretty much being left behind. So I know this has been a topic for actors, for artists, for writers. And part of my project is just to draw attention to it, to just open the conversation, to make this a topic that people are free to talk about. And also how people can get by without using AI. I think that's something that a lot of people need to know also.
I wanted to get into the AI part here toward the end of our show, but for those new authors thinking I just use AI, if you use edit, the term edit, and you put your paragraph or a chapter or whatever, AI when sees edit really means summarize. So you'll take 7 pages down to 2 paragraphs, and you lost everything else. Do not use edit in the context of saying, "Hey, Chat GPT, give me an edit." You have to say, "Edit for grammar, edit for diction, edit for spelling, edit," or proofread is decent, but there are things you can do. Make sure you have the right phrase in order to be able to get the end product. That takes a little bit of work in knowing how to talk to AI. But just, you just can't just throw things at it and expect good results back. And absolutely, what you get back is not necessarily 100% correct. Run it through one or two other checkers. But let's talk about your personal challenge. A book a week. I saw that not yesterday, day before, whatever, and I'm looking, wow. And then you're keeping track of how much you're writing so that people can see that. So why a book a week and why no AI?
Um, well, it came about because I was talking to a friend of mine, and like any sort of good trouble comes about. As a ghostwriter, I was writing about 40,000 words a week. And my friend, who's an editor, was saying, well, you know what? You're a published author yourself. Why aren't you doing this for yourself? And that was sort of a light bulb moment. Oh yeah, I could be doing this for myself instead of doing it for clients. Um, and I thought, and we had also been talking about AI and how it was sort of verging into the creative sphere. And between the two of us, he came up with the tagline "Author versus AI," and I'm never one to back away from a challenge. In fact, this is one reason why I read and write in all genres, because I've been asked, "Oh, have you written a book in the Western genre?" No, I haven't. I'm going to tackle that because I never have before. Or have you written about like in the supernatural romance? If you haven't, okay, I'm going to tackle that. I love the challenge of it. I love seeing if I can produce something that, people like to read. So I figured, between those two things, and a year is about as long as I think I can make it. I think if I went longer than a year writing a book a week, I'd probably be really, really tired and maybe run out of ideas. But so it was a nice sort of round number, 1 year, 52 weeks, a book a week.
So you're shooting for 25,000 words per week for each one of these books. Is that sort of the goal?
40,000 words and above. So, the definition of a novel for most awards for publishers is 40,000 words and above. So some of them will probably be longer, but right now I've been hitting my goal every week, so that's pretty exciting.
How many hours a day do you spend on that?
Well, it depends. I still have clients that I'm working with, so I usually spend about half the day doing my own writing and half the day with clients doing editing or ghost writing. So if once in a while I'll take a whole day for myself, and then I can write, comfortably 10,000 words. Sometimes if I'm doing it all day, maybe 15,000 words.
That's a fair amount of words.
Yes.
And then at some point in time, to me, one of the largest, I guess it's a unfathomable depth of time waste is editing, because you're rereading and rereading and rereading and rereading, and you're tweaking and doing this. And then, I'll spend 5 times more of my time on editing than I do on the writing. And whether I am listening to it or running through this, or so when you're writing your 40,000 words, I assume there's some time left in there for editing.
Yes and no. I sort of edit as I go. I've been writing for long enough and editing for long enough. I can do that. Are there mistakes that come through? Definitely. Sometimes I'll go back. But one of the key things I feel to editing your own work is to let it sit. So basically, I'll write this book and I'll sort of edit a little bit as I go. But none of these books are headed to publication anytime soon. And so they'll, I'll finish writing them each week and then I set them aside. And by the time I get back to them, a few months down the road, I'll be able to look at them with fresh eyes again and be able to dive in and be like, and not be too close to the work. So I think that's the key for me. Anything that I write, I like to write it, let it sit, and then come back to it later when I have some distance from it. The one thing I am editing as I go each week is each week I'm reading an excerpt from the book that I just wrote. So I do sit down and edit that before I let it out into the world, because I don't want some, silly typo or some awkward sentence to be going out there. So I do edit the one chapter that I read each week.
I noticed that one of the smaller comments hidden way deep in your website was you like origami.
Yes.
How long you been doing that?
Well, I am half Japanese, and so when I was very young, my great aunt Masako taught me how to do origami, and she started out with, the very simple things like making a paper crane. But I've been doing it since I was 6, so that's more decades than I like to admit. But yeah, I love it, and one thing that I found out later in life was that origami was initially sort of a vehicle for meditation. It was done by monks to sort of focus the mind. And I like that. I love that idea. So, and it's true. If you're doing a very complex sort of origami, I think the longest one takes me like maybe 15 minutes or so to create one paper item. Yeah, you're very focused, and it can really help clear your mind. So I like it. It's a great sort of Zen type of thing to do.
Are there any other kinds of meditations you like to do?
Um, I think that's it. Just because I have 3 kids, so there isn't a lot of quiet space in the house generally, and they're all school age. So I think 15 minutes is probably the biggest chunk of time I get to myself usually.
I know sometimes I can use my brain, and how how do I connect these two things together? How do I make it clear? And sometimes, just as you say, you clear your mind and you may be making cookies, and all of a sudden it pops into your brain because your subconscious mind finally decides to, let's try that one, see how you think. So I think for writers, you may not have that perfect draft the 10th time, but let it circulate in the brain a little bit as to what can I change? How can I make it better? Where should the value be? Ask various questions of a reader expectation and let your brain kind of play with it for a while. And it may be a week, it may be 2 days, it may be 10 minutes from now. But at some point in time, your subconscious mind is going to knock back on your conscious mind and say, hey, what about this? And so, but anyway, we're getting toward the end of the show. And is there something I should have asked you that I did not?
Um, I can't think of anything. I guess some advice that I would probably give to writers who are looking to break into the field is don't think that AI is going to stop you. It's a tool right now, and people do use it for their writing and for other enterprises. But the creativity comes from you, from humans. One group that I belong to, one writing group, they clarify it as human intelligence, HI, versus AI, artificial intelligence. So I love that term. I love saying, hey, I'm part of the HI generation. But it's there and it will always outweigh artificial intelligence, which is a tool to be used by humans, not to replace humans. So if you're a writer, if you love it, if it's part of your blood and you have to write to express yourself, keep on doing it, keep at it. You're going to find other humans who love what you produce.
Human intelligence. So you have the HI versus AI.com website already?
I don't. That's actually my writing group. It's they have that, and they've actually started stamping their books. Well, some of them with HI, human intelligence, so that you can tell that they didn't use any AI in their products, which I think is a great thing.
I think that's also a great thing. I do use it, but not for my writing. I use it for after the fact. You know, give me 3 subtitles, give me 10 chapter titles. But I do use it, but I don't use it for the actual content. And that's one of the things that I use the AI for. Okay, so we're almost at the end. What can you do for people, and how can they get in touch with you?
Well, on my websites are all my social media contact information. You can reach out to me anytime. My email's there too, or follow me on any of my social media. I've recently gone out to some of the younger generation. I just started a TikTok account, and I won't claim any great skill at it. I think the most popular videos that I put up are ones of my cat, but but yeah, I'm very reachable at either my website, AlisonMcBain.com. That's my overall author website, or for this project, authorversusai.com.
Okay, for our radio audience, that's Alison, Alison McBain, McBain.com. And for the author versus AI, standard AUTHORVSAI.com. And do you say you're just go to the website or send you an email? Actually, basically, just go to your website and
Yep.
there's a contact little click thing. Boom, you click on that, and everything you need to know is there. And you have a particular social media site that you like to use a lot?
Um, Probably Twitter is my go-to, although I don't call it X. I still call it Twitter. I'm old school.
Okay. With that, I am going to say, I don't know how you say goodbye in Canadian, au revoir, or whatever it may happen to be. But anyway, Alison, I truly enjoyed today. I loved the conversation. You're an amazing person, and I look forward to connecting again down the road. So,
Oh,
uh,
thanks so much. It was so lovely to be here. It was great talking to you.
so Thank you again, and we'll catch you in the future. This is Red O'Laughlin again here on the MRO, not MRO, Red O'Laughlin on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. And immediately following the show in about 16 minutes, I'll be doing a show called Talking Heads, and I'll be talking about health and wellness, but this particular show is a multi-week combination of a deep dive into nutrition. What do you really need to know about vitamins and minerals and other nutrients? And what are some of those things that they don't tell you? And what are those things that, well, I wish I had known that? So that's kind of where we're going down the road. So you can join me in a few minutes and catch it live, or you can catch it on YouTube on the archived versions of all of the USA Global TV and Radio Network. So with that, I'm going to bid you adieu and catch you all next week. Bye now.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents our partner and sponsor, Mr. Philip Sykes and the British School of Excellence. Building confidence, changing lives. And now, proudly presenting the Polished Professional.
On a transformative journey with the British School of Excellence's comprehensive suite of masterclasses, crafted to elevate your professional and personal life. 8 outstanding modules will elevate you to the next level. Module 1, Exploring Life's Purpose, delves into the depths of self-discovery, guiding you to chart your unique path to fulfillment and success. Module 2, Mastering Professional Presence and Confidence. This masterclass is a deep dive into the art of self-assurance and commanding presence, which is essential for standing out in today's competitive landscape. Module 3, Learn the secrets of visual impact, how to curate a personal style that amplifies your professional brand. Module 4, Mastering Professional Etiquette and Communication Excellence, navigating the nuances of corporate interaction with grace and tact. Module 5, Elegance in Eloquence. We impart powerful techniques to captivate and persuade any audience with your oratory skills. Module 6, Unlock the potential of your emotional intelligence, EQ, and harness the ability to connect, empathize, and lead with emotional savvy. Module 7, Mastering DISC, building a gateway to understanding behavioral styles, fostering better personal and professional relationships. Module 8, Mastery in Dining Etiquette, building your confidence to perfect the subtleties of dining with finesse, enhancing your social savviness at any table. Step into the Polished Professional program where poise, elegance, and excellence aren't just taught, they're instilled for life. Join us to redefine your potential and polish your professional edge.
To learn more, go to thebritishschoolofexcellence.com. The British School of Excellence are investors in people. Let us invest in you. This program has been brought to you in part by Zane Carson Carruth, etiquette and protocol expert, international award-winning author, television show host, and philanthropist. Thank you to Zane, our official diamond sponsor for USA Global TV and Radio in partnership with E360 TV. Zane is the author of The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever, as well as many other children's books. She's also the television host of Elegance, Polished Demeanor, and Posh Living, seen on USA Global TV and Radio.
Hi, my name is Zane Carson Carruth, and I'm the author of this book, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever.
Reading is magic. Studies have shown that reading to your children lays the foundation for greater success in life. Reading helps develop language and vocabulary skills. It helps improve memory, and it encourages curiosity and inspires creativity. The benefits are immeasurable, and as a parent, you'll benefit too. In only 10 or 15 minutes a day, you'll be creating more memories and a bonding experience that will last for years to come. So take time to read to your children. Read them books about things that engage and interest them. Tales of fairies and magic fascinate children, and as everyone knows, the Tooth Fairy is at the top of the list. If your child loves magic, wands, adventure, and what child doesn't, you'll love reading them books from the trademarked series, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever. Follow along as Bella, the world's first tooth fairy, accidentally starts the tooth fairy tradition. Learn the tricks of being a professional tooth fairy in the book, Bella Starts a Tooth Fairy School. Your child's imagination will soar as you read the adventures of Bella and her magic wand. These wonderful books are available at worldsfirsttoothfairy.com and at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Walmart.
To learn more about Zane, contact her through her website, zanecarruth.com, ZaneCarruth.com. Order Zane's books and merchandise. Contact her about being a keynote speaker at your next event.